Hello everyone, welcome to the SQRT channel. In this video, we are going to talk about a problem that is with radicals. In this problem, we are going to have two equations. For the first equation, we have the fourth root, and for the second equation, we have the 14th root. Let's talk about each equation first, and then we are going to talk about the solution. We are going to have the fourth root of x times radical x minus the fourth root of y times radical y equals to 7. On the other hand, for the second equation, we are going to have the 14th root of x times radical x times radical x. And we are going to have similar thing for y. We are going to add these two terms, and then the result is going to be 3. Now let's talk about the solution. The first thing that I'm going to do is to simplify what I have. But to do that, I'm going to benefit from what I'm going to write it here. So let's assume that we have a times radical b, and we are going to simplify that by writing it as radical a squared times b. Obviously, we can write it as a more generic term when we have the nth root of b, and in this case, we can simplify and write it as a to the power of n times b, and then the nth root. We are going to use this here. Let's talk about that. So here we have x radical x, and we can write it as x squared times x and then another radical. This x squared times x is going to lead us to x cube, and then we are going to have similar thing that we had before, but this time for y. Now let's talk about the other one, which is basically the second equation. Here things are a little bit more complicated. So first of all, let's focus on this. We are going to use the same approach. This is going to be x cubed, and then we have another radical, and then we have x. First we need to move this x inside. It's going to be x squared, and then we have similar thing, and then to move this x squared inside another radical, we are going to write it as x squared to the power of 2 times x to the power of 3, which basically is going to be x to the power of 4. Sorry, x to the power of 7. And we are going to see exactly the same thing this time for y. Now, these two equations that we have, we are going to simplify it further to see what we can do with them. First of all, I'm going to combine these radicals to simplify things a little bit further. Let's talk about that for now. Let's focus on radical n and then radical m for a general term like a. We are going to write it as a to the power of 1 over m and then to the power of 1 over n, and as you can see here, I can write it as a to the power of 1 over mn, and the whole thing can be written as a with mn as the root. Now if we want to use whatever we have here, so I can combine these two and then say that this is the root, the second root, and here we have the fourth root. We are going to multiply them, so it's going to be the 8th root. And similar thing for y, and then for this one we have 2 and then 2 and 14. We are going to say that 14 times 2 times 2 is going to be 56, so we are going to use 56 here. Everything else is going to be the same. Remember, we have negative here and positive here, so we are going to just use those as is. Now we reach to these two equations, and we are going to simplify it a little bit further. First of all, if you note that, we can say that this is a to the power of 7 and this is 56. Let's see how we are going to solve this and simplify this. Let's assume that in general I have a to the power of m nth root. In this case, I'm going to write it as a to the power of m to the power of 1 over n, which can be simplified and as a to the power of m over n. Now here you can say that I'm going to have x to the power of 7 over 56, which is going to be x to the power of 1 over 8, so I can write it as the 8th root of x. And this is exactly what we have here. The same thing for y, and we kept everything for the first equation. Now we have these two equations and we want to solve them. Let's see what we have here. This is the 8th root of x, this is the 8th root of y, this is the 8th root of y to the power of 3, and similarly the 8th root of x to the power of 3. I'm going to use a for the first term here and then b for the second term. Obviously this term can be written as a cube, and similarly this term can be written as b cube. If we use the same approach, we are going to have a cube minus b cube is 7 and a plus b is 3. Now let's see how we are going to take it from here. Obviously this is negative and this is positive, so I cannot just use an identity. Remember, the identity that we had before was a cube minus b cube based on a minus b. But here we don't have a minus b, we have a plus b. So we cannot simply use that. But what we can do is, we can say that we based on this equation, a, or let's say b is 3 minus a, so we are going to use that and then replace it here with b. The first term is exactly as what we have. So here we have a cube minus 3 minus a to the power of 3 is 7. And we want to simplify it a little bit further. To do this, we are going to just take a normal algebraic approach. We are going to write it as a3 minus the first term to the power of 3, which is going to be 27. And then we are going to have 3 times the first term to the power of 2 times the second term, and so on and so forth. If you do this approach, and then it's going to be 7. If you do this approach and then simplify things a little bit further, you can simply see that we can simplify the whole equation and write it as what you have here. So basically here we have two potential things to be 0. The first term can be 0, so a can be 2, and the second term can be 0, and then we need to find the value that we can have for that. But this is a quadratic equation. For this quadratic equation, you can see that we are not going to be able to see any real values. Because of that, a equal to 2 is going to be the only answer. And remember, we said that b is 3 minus a, so b is going to be 1. And based on these two, you can say that x is a to the power of 8, since we said that we defined a as the 8th root of x. Because of that, x is 256 and y is 1. And we finally found the answers to this question. Thanks for watching the video. If you would like to see more puzzles, math-involved activities, and problems from different math competitions, please kindly subscribe to this channel. By subscribing to this channel, you are going to help me to make other videos. I hope to see you in the next video.